welcome to a special birthday edition of Word in Your Attic, and our Access Hall Areas patron, who thus deserves this fantastic invasion of his home by Dave and myself, or rather gets, is Paul Cook. Paul, it's lovely to see you, and where do we find you?
I am in southeast London, sandwiched between sort of Catford and Sydenham.
Fantastic, and a very impressive array of guitars behind you.
Yes, I got them just for the day, obviously. I just hired them.
You hired them just to make us think that you're in some hard-working, hard-gigging rock and roll quartet.
Absolutely.
But you got a proper job, but you are also in a band, aren't you? You're a serious musician. Is that fair to say? Does that go a long way back?
Yeah, I mean, I started playing guitar when I was about 9. My longest standing friend, Neil, who I've known since I was 3, his mother was my guitar teacher when I was, I think, 9 and a half. And then we played in bands together. So he's older than me by 1 whole year. And so every time he formed a band, I got dragged into it. And so we sort of concurrently followed each other. So I've been playing for, more years than I should count, really.
And what is this your own material, or is it covers?
No, I do my own stuff. I do sort of bits and pieces on my own, which go up onto Bandcamp, and then the sort of duo that I'm in. I never quite. What do you call 2 people? A duo sounds like Bontempi organ and crooner, but I mean,
sounds like you should be on a cross-channel ferry. Yeah,
I'll say band, because band just 2 people isn't covered.
No, Soft Cell wasn't really a band, was it? No.
I mean, I look to your advice for that. I mean,
Wasn't it traditionally a combo? Technically,
combo. Yes.
Combo, that's good. Combo can cover a number of people.
I thought a combo was initially referred to 2. Again, it's one of those many things that occurs to us in podcasts that we think must check that later, and then never do. But we'll leave that to people out there to maybe come back to us and tell us if we're right about that.
Does that make Batman and Robin the dynamic combo?
The dynamic.
It does. That's good.
It could
Morgan Wise were a combo. Of course they were. Yeah. Fantastic. So, what have you got? Have you got some old records or items that you can? Happy birthday, by the way.
Yes,
fantastic.
Right, happy birthday.
I completely forgot to say happy birthday. It's quite soon, isn't it?
So I thought what I'd start with is because you always usually ask, what was in your house when you were growing up, and of course,
yes.
Of my age at 50, nearly 56, it was a recordgram. The sort of the radio record.
Radiogram, yeah.
Happening. And I remember this, and actually I had to clear my parents' house.
Wow, brilliant.
Great record.
And Trini Lopez live at PJ's.
What a brilliant cover.
They had one of those, the things, the dividers, the metal dividers with the ball feet and, with all the records racked up. And you always either saw, so for years I had things like the New Seekers and Scheherazade and this, Trini Lopez, or Lopez, stared at me from their record collection for years. So when I was clearing their house a couple of years ago, this came back with me, had to, really.
Well, it had to, quite rightly too.
And you got fond memories of it?
I don't really remember them playing it that much, other than If I Had a Hammer, which of course was...
Absolutely, that was
ubiquitous.
What other tunes are on that? Are there any Bob Dylan songs on that? I was trying to remember Trini Lopez, because he was a very big deal in that short period.
What have we got? I can't quite read it.
Gotta travel on down by the riverside, all that kind of thing.
When the Saints go marching on.
Yeah, Marianne, which isn't that...
Oh, Let It Go.
No, that's so long, Marion, but I don't think it would be. But he's one of those people who flourished, it feels to me, like in that sort of very brief period before Bob Dylan just took off.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There were a load of variety entertainers who would pop up on Sunday nights at London Palladium or whatever, and they'd play songs that had some kind of folk connection. And Trini Lopez was definitely the one.
I've listened to it recently, because when I brought it back, I then, of course, Spotified it, and it's great. It really stands the test of time. It's a live audience. And
is it genuinely a live audience? I didn't know it was one of those things like Johnny Rivers, where they always managed to make it sound like.
Yeah,
but it probably was. If it says PGs. PJ's in LA, I think, isn't it? I think it was on. I may be
Unless it means that he's in his pajamas. But
no, I don't think so. Well, I'm very pleased to hear you now pronounce it in the proper Spanish manner, because Trini Lopez can be rehabilitated as world music, can't it? You know, whereas nobody thought of saying that back in 1962, 63. Or whatever it was that came from. But I'm very glad that you kept that there, you know, as a memento of your mum and dad's record collection. You didn't keep Scheherazade then?
I didn't keep Scheherazade, and I didn't keep the extensive Cliff Richard and Johnny Mathis collection that was available to me. I left those where they were.
Johnny Mathis still with us, you know, amazingly. Well, Cliff Richard obviously is still with us. Johnny Mathis, I think, again, still with us.
He's got a great voice.
Yeah. It's never gone away at all. Oh, that's fantastic. So what else have you got there?
Yes,
so is that for your kind of opening decade of your life? That's from the first 10 years?
What's the opening decade? We're talking about 1960s there, are we?
Oh, well, I mean, I don't know when my parents got that. They probably got it in the 60s. I mean,
but your opening decade's the 60s.
Yeah, well, I mean, I was born in 64. I mean, 70s was when, my first kind of foray into listening to music would have been chart music. So that was the early 70s. So I did perform I Love You, Love Me, Love by Gary Glitter to my parents and their friends in my pajamas. Don't tell
Why
me.
not?
So there's a lot of those kind of Alvin Stardust and Barry Blue, if anyone remembers
Barry
yes.
Dancing on a Saturday Night.
Dancing on a Saturday night,
School
of course.
Love. So I think that everyone has their decade for those pop tunes that I could probably still sing My Cuckoo now, if you put it on.
I think it's very important to remember those things, because too often people are only happy to tell you that their early records were like Anarchy in the UK or something edgy or whatever. Whereas the truth is that kids like all kinds of tosh, don't they? They just do.
They're like tosh. They're like novelty records.
They're like novelty records.
And they're like harmless bands that look like kind of substitute parent and aunts and uncle figures.
It's the next step on from nursery rhymes, isn't it? Really,
it is.
Songs it is. You can dance, and then like for most people, they either carry on a love of music, or music sort of sits in the background, and But for me, it was like one of those things. I just I could see that Chinn Chapman seemed to write everything in the 70s, but
yes.
You're not aware of that when you're dancing in your pajamas in the front room.
No, that's true.
No,
that's true. So, where did you first buy records? Can you remember that?
I used to get my because I'm from Hemel Hempstead, as one.
Oh, right, okay.
Will tell you, but so I think Smith's was always the go-to. Right. So I think I actually had the first. My parents bought everything for me. The first thing I can vaguely remember buying with my own money was this, but that's obviously in the 80s.
Oh, that's a fantastic.
So was that Ashes to Ashes?
Yeah, which comes with the stamps for some unknown reason.
Oh, really? Are they peel-off stamps?
Well, they appear to have the remnants of some shine on them, so I think it's probably a bit like the stuff that Blue Peter, like some one down from sticky back plastic. But
right.
What was the B-side of that? Was it Move On? I can't remember.
Move On.
Yeah, that's a brilliant record.
Yes. But yeah,
fantastic.
But that was, I didn't have jobs. My parents didn't kind of force me to go and be a paper boy or anything. So I got a job in my dad's place one summer when I was just in that sort of teenager. And I earned more money than God, more money than a child should earn. And I bought lots of very stupid things. I bought the German version of Peter Gabriel's third album.
Good God, why?
I don't know. I still know that
money to burn.
Ja, ein Gunterblicker wird im Flirting Krieg, muss man Schwänzen Spieler ohne Grenzen.
What?
Sorry. Made an impression. Which track was that?
That's Games Without Frontiers. Of course.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
So you're telling me Peter Gabriel's third album he did a German version? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, and I bought it
in German.
In German, yeah.
This I didn't know. I thought that had completely stopped when the Beatles did She Loves
Give Me Dinah Hand.
Whatever.
That's right. Yeah.
I thought after that nobody did that at all. But Peter Gabriel was still doing it in the 70s.
I mean, I don't know. No, that was. I think the third album must have been in the 80s because.
Oh well, maybe, yeah.
God, that must be collectible. Amazing.
I mean, if I still had it, unfortunately, it's one of the ones along with the double live Aerosmith album that I also bought for some unforeseeable reason. I think I was quite taken, as I still am, by things that look quite nice and have sort of not rarity but are odd. But I don't know where they've gone. It's a shame.
Right. So what else have you got to show us there?
So I think I guess probably my next foray into music was proggy.
Wind and Wuthering.
Oh, right, okay.
By the Genesis.
I mean, I'm not, I can't say that it's something that comes out a lot. But
it's got, if I remember it correctly, it's got one good track, which was a single. Remind Me. It's kind of ballady. I've got that record myself, I think.
Afterglow, was that it?
Don't think so, but anyway, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. So that again is that's the late 70s, isn't it? That's with Phil Collins, the lead singer, isn't it? That's after Peter Gabriel has gone. Yeah.
I can't see a date on this. I mean, I think partly because my friend Neil had an older brother by a couple of years, so this is the kind of thing that he was listening to. So a lot of ELP, a lot of Yes, a lot of Genesis.
Right.
Of course, that filters down as your friend is listening to music that's probably 2 or 3 years older than you would normally be listening to. So I guess I was always a little ahead of what would have been really popular for my age. But yeah, no, I still don't have my live ELP album with the 3.
Welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends.
Exactly.
Is that what it was called?
Yes, I think it was, wasn't it? It was.
It was.
Each one of them had their own thing.
Oh God, was that
proper fight?
What was that the case on the or was that? So listen, I know nothing about ELP at all, but they had a triple live album called "Welcome Back, My Friends, to the Show That Never Ends."
Yeah.
But didn't they also have a record called Trilogy or something like that, where they all did a record each or something?
Oh, yeah, I think, was that studio album, though? I mean,
I don't know.
This policy extended to their touring lorries. Do you remember that? They had 3 touring trucks around America, and you saw them from the air. They spelled Emerson, Lake and Palmer.
Oh, yes.
So they had to stay. They had to stay in convoy. Palmer couldn't overtake and go to the front and throw the whole thing in.
Which is
lovely idea.
Yes, it's ELP, but that's in alphabetical order as well, is it? Which had never occurred to me.
Absolutely, it is. You're right.
Like Ant and Deck,
Of course, Palmer is still with us. Palmer's still with us, isn't he?
Yes.
While we're doing the roll call of the living.
Yes, God bless him.
Yes, although Greg Lake will always be with us because you've worked in a record shop and I've worked in a record shop.
Every Christmas.
Every Christmas you will hear I Believe in Father Christmas, for all eternity.
There's nothing.
Well, his vocal on 21st Century Schizoid Man surely secured him some kind of immortality, wasn't that?
I think he was a way better singer than Emerson, Lake and Palmer probably gave him credit for, and it's a shame he didn't do more solo stuff because he's got a fine voice. I mean, he's got a real sort of rock blues voice.
He has.
Well, it was when Emerson heard him playing with King Crimson when they were touring the States. And Emerson was with the Nice, that he thought, I'm ditching David O. List and whoever the other 2 in the Nice were, whoever the singer was.
Well, I'm hooking up with this guy.
Yeah. Which resulted in kind of the breakup of 2 groups, because King Crimson kind of had to go back to square one, and the Nice were all over. But that produced Emerson, Lake and Palmer. That's extraordinary.
And one of the kind of great sort of bass player singers, the sort of Jack Bruce and, even Mark King's got a great voice as well,
Yeah. So who did you first go? Tell us, you worked in a record shop. No, you worked in a record shop. I want to hear, what record shop did you work in?
You would know it, because I worked in HMV.
Oh, right. HMV, which one?
The one in Oxford Street?
I was in their flagship store, which is not 363, which is what I think you worked in.
I was in 363, but I'm going back to the Stone Age. But
I was 150. So obviously, anyone who worked on Oxford Street would say, "Oh yeah, I'm nipping down to 363 to pick up some stock, or I'm going up to 150."
Right.
I so it was the one that I think when I first came to London, it was actually in one of those big indoor hypermarkets that sold all sorts of kind of hippie tat and sort of tie clothes and stuff. And then they took it over. I mean, it's now Sports Direct.
Yeah.
Can you remember any customer coming up and asking you for a copy of a record by The Loneliest Monk or whatever the equivalent was? Can you think there's always some people who work at record shops usually got some story about some extraordinary request.
I didn't work. Unfortunately, I was an in-store DJ, so.
Oh right, very good.
It was a bit of an odd job. I'd sort of worked in a place before that knew how to use the AV equipment, so I was actually a VJ. So they had the video floor at 150 with this incredible multi-TV screen thing that was cutting edge at the time. But when I started, it was, and when I left, it wasn't. And I used to sit in this bubble and be visible while you played video.
Oh, really?
So, yeah,
but did people come up to you and demand requests or anything like that?
Well, thankfully, you're in a glass bubble with no access to you.
So that's good.
At you, but I'm sure you remember there was always there's a family of people that used to come and ask for Shakin' Steve and stuff, and there were various colourful characters that were in and around Soho and Oxford Street that would prowl the record shops, because it was a nice warm place to be and had music.
Right.
Bang on your glass and go more Heap, more Quo, more Zepp.
Yeah. So I did that for a while, and then I worked downstairs on the actual radio, HMV.
Oh, I see. Right.
Obviously in store and obviously in stereo, as you would.
Okay. So you were telling people where the bargains to be got around the shop.
Yeah. And what denominations of gift vouchers, which are still 2, 5, 10, 15 and 20, I believe.
I do. I miss the record token badly. They don't exist, do they, presumably? They can't exist.
I did a stint on the customer service counter when they refitted the store, and I was given the option to go away and come back, which obviously would have meant no money, or go and work on the counter. So I did some floor walking and worked on customer services, and somebody did bring in, this would have been like 1987 or 8, a tattered birthday card. Said, do you know if this is still valid? And opened it, and it had EMI tokens on the inside. I had like £80 worth of EMI.
But didn't they used to expire? They did, didn't they?
There's always an odd thing about gift vouchers, because I think these had expired mainly because HMV wasn't even owned by EMI anymore.
No.
Oh, right, yeah.
Long gone the way of a conglomerate. I think the idea of an expiring gift voucher is probably an interesting one, because you're essentially exchanging cash for a piece of paper, and cash doesn't really expire. But they did, they used to have an expiry date on some.
What a cruel ruse.
It is a cruel ruse, really.
Yeah. But my experience of HMV, which is slightly earlier, but this is my piece of advice, based on working in a large retail environment. Even if you're a customer, even if you haven't got a leg to stand on, if you stand there and argue long enough, the manager will say, give him his money.
Yes.
Get him out of the place. Give him his money.
Yeah.
It's not worth the trouble.
Because you're becoming an embarrassment.
You're an embarrassment.
And you just have to make a lot of noise.
That's not... You don't even have to make a lot of noise. You just have to refuse to go.
Yeah.
I've seen this happen. I've seen people giving their money back when they did not have a leg to stand on. They clearly didn't buy the record there. They didn't have a receipt or whatever. But the word would come down... The manager after manager would say, no, I'm sorry, we're not doing anything. And this person would stay. And eventually, a call would be made upstairs to the chap on the 5th floor who would just say, give him his money.
Yeah, I'm not coming down to talk to this person.
I'm not coming down. I've got other things to do. There's terrible advice to give people, but it's,
I did customer service for years, and that was definitely, it's like if someone is going to cause like an explosion in a department just by keeping everybody, busy because they're complaining so much, just give them the money and get rid of them. But we did have there was somebody I worked with who he did have someone try and return something, and being in Oxford Street, you're close to all the sort of the big Soho companies, all the big advertising agencies and record companies, and someone brought this back. The guy went to check it on the computer and scratched his chin, went back to the guy and said, are you sure you bought this? What did you buy? He said, I bought it last week. So, are you sure about that? Anything about your story you'd like to change? And it turned out it was a promo copy, and it wasn't actually out until...
It wasn't out yet.
It wasn't out yet. So he went away with his CD.
Tail between legs.
Back next week.
Yeah. Fair cop.
What else you got there, Paul?
Okay, so I think that sort of after all of the prog phase, which was at a point where I wasn't going out and watching music, I was just listening to it. This is my first gig, so this was, so I printed it big just so it was easier to see.
Oh, U2 at the Pavilion, Hemel Hempstead.
Oh, that's great.
£3.
I love it, £3, but they printed the tickets and they couldn't be bothered. Oh no, it's not Tuesday, it's Wednesday. Oh, just write Wednesday on them.
That's fantastic.
Straight music. John Curd of Straight Music.
What year was that then? What would that have been? £3?
You know, I'm trying to think. It's 1980 something.
Must have been very early.
It must be. Yeah,
83 or whatever. Yeah.
It was that. It was sponsored by the Concert Angels, and it was like, I was very nervous. It was I was probably older than I should have been to go to a gig, but I was very nervous. You know, I'd never been to a gig before. I thought I might be jostled by some of the bigger boys. And of course, it was
the agony of what to wear.
Well, yeah, what should I wear exactly?
Yeah,
those things that I think, you know, because I was playing in bands as well. When you see something that's transformative, and it kind of was when I'd never experienced live music in that way before, and you know, I was a huge U2 fan for years, up until probably the Joshua Tree or one of those ones, and then they became global, and then they were doing the same thing at every gig, you know, getting a cigarette from someone in the audience, waving the flag from the top of the PA stacks, and I thought they lost a lot of that energy. So but I mean, as an introduction to kind of live music, they were stunning.
Fantastic.
So that was your first time you saw a band, was U2.
Yeah.
In quite a small venue.
I think probably barely 2,000. I would have thought it was an upstairs and a downstairs. I mean,
okay, and they were, and if I know U2, they were doing the show as if they were playing for 100,000 people.
I mean, yeah, looking at the back as if there were 20,000 people behind me. I mean, I think we all know. I mean, you were talking about it on one of the recent the call on your book yesterday. It was yesterday, wasn't it?
All right.
And about exactly that, you know, they went to America and they played as if they were a stadium rock band, when they weren't, you know. Yeah. And I think something the Police said as well, and they played to like one guy in an small American town, end up going back and having dinner at his house. That they played the gig as if they were playing to, you know, 1,000, that's your duty as a musician.
Completely,
it is, but it's it's something people don't realise, and I think particularly in America, it's your duty. You've got to absolutely, you know, they don't go for grudging in America at all, do they?
No, I mean, you want hello, name of the town, everyone goes wild, and then you say a few things about the local area or something. Hey, we love you, America, you know.
That's the great thing about gigs that I don't think sufficient musicians understand is just, and this is a thing Mark and I used to talk about years ago. In the days of Smash Hits, in that teenagers would go to their first gig and they would write in. They'd say, I went to see Duran Duran or whoever it was. It doesn't matter who it was. And they'd always say the same thing. They would say, Simon spoke to us.
Yeah.
That's the thing people remember. It's not
remember
the
that,
music.
they remembered the lights too. They said the lights were orange, and then they went green, and then later on they went blue. And Nick was wearing a frilly shirt with interesting cuffs, you know. But it's mostly what was said in between the songs. That's what makes it memorable.
It's communication, because everything
else is pretty much the
you
same.
get on a record, you know.
Yeah.
I saw television at the Roundhouse a few years ago, and I'd never seen them back, you know, when they were in the first flush of popularity. And they were really dull. I mean, this is a band that had played at CBGB's. You know, they had probably endless stories that they could have told. And they said nothing. They made every 3-minute song 9 minutes long with an extended solo in the middle of just plinkiness. And the only thing I remember them saying to the audience, I mean, there was 5 minutes in between each track while they tuned up, which is, you know, excruciating. Yeah. And they said, does it sound okay to the audience?
That's pathetic.
That's your job. You know, that's not our job. We're not here to criticize. We're here to listen.
I'll tell you what. Sorry,
I once saw Tom Verlaine on stage with somebody. I think it might have been Patti Smith, and he brought a folding chair. And he opened the folding chair up and sat on it, and then moved it to the side of the stage to sit and watch when he wasn't playing. I thought, that is unbelievably disconnected.
Yeah, I mean,
I've been meaning to tell you, actually, Mark, and I'll tell Paul as well. And because Van Morrison a couple of weeks ago was tweeting and saying, I've got to get back to being on stage. They've got to open up absolutely everything again. And I was talking to a friend the other day who actually went to see Van Morrison a week or so ago.
And he was probably really user-friendly.
Socially distanced.
Cracking jokes in between songs.
And I said, come on, Charlie, tell me.
Serving drinks.
Did he bounce on the stage say, well, it's brilliant to be back. It's such a joy to be here. I'm going to do songs I haven't done forever. You know, he said, no, not at all. Just wandered on, completely the same. Spoke
Exactly
only one line and the whole thing saying, thanks for coming out. Now, that was it. What would it bloody cost you, Van Morrison, to say to people, I can't tell you what a pleasure this is to be out again.
It must be as exciting for you as it is for me to be out of the house.
It would have meant a lot to the musicians. It would certainly have meant a lot to the crowd there. You know, what does that cost you?
I know there's
just to spread a little love, you know? Some
people come on stage as if you think you've missed the first part of the gig, as if they've gone off and come back on again, you know. Although it explains the harmonica story related to Van Morrison.
Have you heard that on the podcast? It is a bit of a classic.
It's one of my favourite stories and one
it is. Andrew Harrison. I know the sawing motion.
Yeah.
That's the.
I don't tend to tell it during dinner though.
No. There's definitely.
I wonder if it's true. It doesn't matter, but it
doesn't matter at all. Doesn't matter. So, have you visited? You've been to Word in Your Ear at the Islington in our live incarnation. Is that right?
I still thank you for getting
which ones
to play again.
We're getting
Scritti Politti.
Oh right. Oh yes, we did. That's right.
Which was brilliant. I know that they sort of started because Rodri does lots of amazing keyboard things. So but yeah, it was fantastic. Having never seen them, you know, I was a big fan from like the really early, the really nasty kind of clanky indie stuff. You know, the pre-Lang EP and
Skank Block Bologna.
Yeah. Which is like, you know, I mean, again, one of those things when you hear it as a kind of formative teenager, you think, can music really be like this, like Gang of Four and all those kind of bands where you think,
absolutely,
I've not heard anything like this. So, you know, because I know he had terrible sort of stage fright for ages, so they just didn't play, and they did all that massive stuff in America with, you know, Dave Gamson producing them, all those incredible keyboard and synth songs. But it was just really good to see him, play live, and that was brilliant. So I think. Between myself and my girlfriend and our friend Mike, who we always sit, you would only recognise us because we sit next to Keith.
All right.
We're the ones next to Keith. So hi, Keith.
Oh, okay.
One along from Keith.
You know, you can't. It's really hard to be interesting when you stand next to Keith because
you're invisible.
You're invisible. Exactly. You are. You're just. You know. You're the least. You become the least interesting person in that lineup.
He's an art exhibit, isn't he?
He is.
I want to know why Keith hasn't gone the final 9 yards and actually put a knot in his beard, like Vivian Stanchel used to do.
A matter of time.
That's just, it must be inches away from it.
But he is brilliant, you know. But I mean, of course, he's a great raconteur, and you know, he's a great force for good, you know, which is fantastic. So we always sit with him. So
right
into the gigs, I think since you first put them on. Do you remember what the first one was?
Oh, well, the first ones we did with music, I can't remember. Alex would remember. I don't know. We did Wilco and we did the Blockheads, and I can't remember all kinds of
Lisa
people.
Carthy, was it? Eliza Carthy?
Carthy, we did. So basically, we
the first one.
Say again?
Do you remember the first one? Sorry, guys, to interrupt.
No, go on, carry on. Tell us.
The first Word in Your Ear was Pugwash and Duncan.
Oh, right.
Yeah, I was at that. Did Colin Moulding? Colin Moulding came on for that, didn't he? I think.
No, not Colin Moulding. Dave Gregory.
Sorry, I always get the.
Dave Gregory came on with an amazing haircut.
His purdy
strange sort of bowl haircut, like Dave out of Slade. You know,
the New Avengers.
Yes, that was a great night.
And you had the guy from.
Did you have the Neil Hannon? Did you go to that one?
That was brilliant.
That was good.
He did, which Human League song did he do? Don't You Want Me?
He did something like that.
I still don't know how they got the piano.
Absolutely, the major logistical thing. I think about this all the time. we paid for the hiring of that piano, didn't we, Alex?
And made a loss on the entire thing.
Oh, yeah, it was a lot of money.
Yeah.
How much was it, Alex? Come on, you can tell us.
I can't remember exactly, but I believe it was 4 figures.
It was four figures.
And presumably a tuner as well?
It was a proper grand though, and we had to
It was
get
a
up that
really
little
proper grand.
staircase. Yeah, it was astonishing.
How did they get it upstairs?
Well, they had a proper dedicated piano rescue squad to do it. These guys do it all the time. They make it look like it's really easy. You know, you're there with palpitations.
Just a set of monkeys then that helped get it up the stairs.
Yeah. Monkeys in the pulley. No, it was a crack operation, but they made it look effortless. But they do it every day, and I'm sure they do it through all kinds of windy staircases. But they got it up and they got it down, and nobody died. Which was great.
But if you're a musician like Neil Hannon, you think the opportunity to sit at the business end of a really top of the range grand piano is fantastic, isn't it? Doesn't come along all the time, does it? Is that right?
Oh yeah, it's pretty special. You always heard it overall.
You wouldn't have that at home, would you?
No.
Yeah.
Well, not unless you're Elton John, I guess.
Yeah.
No, I suppose not.
Yeah, that was amazing. I mean, I remember that gig, and there was an incredible band called the Wu-Tars. I seem to remember that.
Oh,
we know them.
Oh,
yeah, we've actually
modesty
met one of the
forbid.
Wu-Tars. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. He left the band soon after.
Went on to greater things.
So, who knows whether we'll meet again in the flesh in due course when, as we say, when this bloody war is over.
I mean, I missed them. We came to that, though. I think my favourite was the summer one, the Jamboree, which was on the riverboat. And
that was great. Yeah. With Neil Finn, was it?
Neil Finn and the pajama.
Oh, the
Whatever
Stone King. What was it called?
Stone King.
That was a
CW Stone
great
King.
day.
Did we have two of them on the same boat?
bill.
Yeah.
And it was scorching, wasn't it? It was fabulous.
And if I'm not mistaken, they opened Tower Bridge 3 times.
Yeah, they did.
In the course of our voyage. Is that right?
I mean, I've got pictures of Kate and Mike, my friends, and my girlfriend and my friend, and with the tower open, the gates.
And I'd never seen in my life do that ever. I lived in London.
Not a cloud in the sky. It was amazing. So hot.
God, it was hot.
It was unbelievably hot, but there was refreshing liquid available.
There was a nice cool breeze coming off the Thames. It was
very good fun.
It was very good. So,
have you got more? Have you got more to show us? Have you got a greatest record or anything like that? Or have you got more items?
I'll just say one more ticket because it's really fun.
Go on.
All right.
Lovely.
Gosh.
But look where he's playing.
Very good. Where is it?
I'm trying to...
Dunstable Queensway Hall.
Well, there you go.
To this day, I can only imagine someone telling Peter Tosh in a fug of like weed smoke that he's in Dunstable and him just going, They
won't care. He won't care. Gets paid. It'd be fine.
Go off stage, so a puff of smoke would appear, and then he would come back on stage again. And
yes,
it was a great gig.
Yeah, he'd be no good in the no smoking age, would he? Really, Peter Tosh.
Not really.
Peter Tosh was a man built for the smoking, wasn't he? Really.
So a couple of things. I think.
Go on.
Go on.
So we got those two. I think they were kind of opened up and not of
right, God.
Including
Catch Cows. That's a Virgin. That's a Virgin sampler, is it?
Yeah, sampler.
So that I think might have been one of the first times I heard XTC, who sort of
yeah.
I like affect whether like they influenced me as a guitarist. So Andy Partridge's influence was huge, as was The Edge, as was John Martin. So lots of people that sort of changed my style of playing. But I think that was one of the first times I came to XTC quite late. And then the Sounds one actually has a Prince Far Eye track on it, a Gregory Isaacs track.
Oh, that's a Sound sampler, is it?
Yeah,
from the Sounds, the magazine, the newspaper.
Yeah. That's wonderful.
Wow.
God, I don't remember that at all.
I don't remember that at all.
That's really
I'd forgotten about Cash Cows. I do remember at the time, but I'd completely forgotten about it. It's amazing how many of these old samplers have come out of the woodwork.
We've had millions of them. For people our age, have all got nice enough to eat and gut bucket and fill your head with rock, and mainly because there was such an important thing for our generation.
You wouldn't.
That's how we discovered people.
No,
that's how I discovered Nick Drake. Exactly.
Well, I think when I realised when it had changed, when we were listening to Six Music, heard, I think it was Lucius or a band called The Do, and within 5 minutes I'd looked them up online, bought a ticket for the gig that they were in town to promote, and went like the following day.
Yeah.
Whereas things like that would have been, that was your entrance to music.
Absolutely.
You might hate 4 or 5 of the tracks, but there'd be 2 or 3 that would send you off in a different direction, like a compilation.
Well, that was when music was a treasure hunt, wasn't it? And which is a huge part of its appeal. Now, we traditionally ask people to nominate in closing the greatest record ever made, which is entirely over to you. It can be as predictable,
and it can be anything.
Mad
it can be a cliche. We've had Sgt. Pepper in the past. Why not? Well, whatever it is, there's no wrong answer. We applaud it.
It's a little bit different because it's sort of split into head and heart, because there is one album that I would come back to and I would run to and take to the apocalypse with me. But there is one album by, and I tried to check this with Alex, but we thought that I thought it'd been promoted in a Word email, one of those something for the weekends that you used to do.
Okay.
I don't think it was a bit later, but the artist, which is an artist called Sumie, Sumie. I thought I'd heard her first on the Word, but wherever I heard her, it actually changed a lot of the way that my girlfriend Kate and I would go away. So by hearing this one artist, we went to a couple of gigs in this country, and then it springboarded into using gigs as a way of traveling to other countries. We've been to see her in Gothenburg.
So she's Swedish, is she? Or?
She's Swedish, yeah. She's from Gothenburg. So she's sort of, I think, dad is Japanese and mom is Swedish, I think. So she speaks, incredible. Well, actually, all Swedish people speak incredible English.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things where music is transformative. So by hearing that one track and going, "Wow, that's amazing," going to a couple of gigs, it actually started a whole load of things of like going to places in Europe to see her and other bands, and building holidays around, rather than going to the sometimes cynical London audience, is actually going to other places like Brussels and actually seeing music. So I think for me, that's the sort of the heart, how music, hearing
that's
something.
That's a lovely idea.
She is one of my, she is one of my favorite singers. I don't like the definition of a male and a female singer. If you've got a great voice, you've got a great voice. So I like the fact that something that you can love so much can actually have such a dramatic effect on your life, which music always has done. Whether I play it or whether I listen to it, it's transformative, as it should be. But of course, you have to have the Uber
That's
album.
a delightful story. Yeah.
And then it's that. Yeah, Asia.
Steely Dan. Yes. Yes.
It's hard to find an album that I could put on in any mood that just is. It's like a warm bath with a brandy and a huge cigar, or it's just like they're
the most reached for recording artists, I think, in the world, I think.
And I think, again, throughout, it's unfortunate hearing I've forgotten the guy's name who wrote the book about John Martin, the huge
Graham Thompson, yeah.
Graham Thompson. It was a fantastic interview, but put me right off John Martin.
Don't let that happen.
He's hard to love, isn't he? My goodness.
I'm going to have to just put that to one side and come back to John Martin in a year or so, but because I still would pick something like Over the Hill or May You Never as.
Why would you not just? You didn't have to live with him. You just have to
exactly.
live
with him. But when you find out what he was like, it's hard to believe that this is the guy who wrote those beautiful songs. But there we are.
I don't think it's hard to believe at all. How do you know that Shakespeare didn't knock his wife about a bit? You don't know that at all, do you?
No, we don't. It's true.
Torture cats, but
it's true.
Yeah, no. So
John Lennon was no sweetheart. Let's be honest.
Yeah, there are many cases like that. So go on.
It's just so beautiful. It's there's something about their music that should be clinical and absolutely isn't clinical.
Sure.
The precision is surgical and yet still beautiful, and that is a really it's a really hard thing to be. It's like craft work. There's a similar kind of thing that you think that precision would be emotionless, and actually it's far from it. It's really emotive, and I'd say it's probably every single track on that album. I could listen to it from start to finish, where there are some like later albums and some of their earlier albums, yeah, not every track does it for me. Whereas that, I just think is a blinding.
It's fantastic record.
You can't go wrong with that. You can't
Also,
go wrong.
Steely Dan, very hard to. They don't seem to date. They're very lean. It's very lean sound, and it's you never get tired of it. You know, it remains with you.
I think it also helps that we don't know what the hell they're going on about.
Well, no, I mean,
do any of their records particularly, summon up pictures for you? Or they don't.
That's the shine up the battle apple, I believe, is one of the lines in Dozy, I think.
They're just like Swiss watches, They're like little puzzles.
It's like
the sound of the words and all that sort of stuff.
Yes, and I think
but Black Cow is only Black Cow once you know that Black Cow is a drink.
It's a drink, absolutely.
Have you got to? The thing I would commend to anybody is a wonderful website called the Steely Dan Dictionary,
which we published a big piece on in Word magazine.
It was a labour of love, where a guy is just anything referred to in a Steely Dan lyric, he tells you what it is, why it's there, and that is such a good thing. It's just online. The Steely Dan Dictionary. You can
any word is explained. It's fantastic. Changes the way you look at each song. It's brilliant.
Absolutely. Caves of Altamira, all those things. They've all got a story behind them.
I like it.
Change your view of the song. Well, look, it's been lovely to talk to you.
Great to talk to you. Fantastic, Paul.
This is not on the occasion of your birthday. Your birthday is coming up in a week or so. What are you going to do for the birthday? Do you know?
I'm going to be in Wales, sort of apart, sort of like going to see friends that we haven't seen for a long time, and scattering my mother's ashes on the Monday. But that's actually going to be in Sydney, not in Wales. So it's a combined trip to mark my mother. So that's it. So it's kind of a nice thing. I've never really celebrated my birthday that much, so scattering my mum's ashes seems as good as anything else.
Really good.
I won't attempt to follow that. Cheers. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.